Hello everyone, welcome back to Time&Tell. This week on the channel we're going to do something slightly different than our typical watch reviews, and we're just going to talk about a high-level comparison of the different types of watches out there. And the purpose of this video is to help those of you who are looking to make your first purchase or your first purchase for an everyday wear piece. I'm hoping this will shed some light on what type of watch person you are and what are the options out there. And as you can see, I'm going to break down 3 watches that we've reviewed in the past, but with the inclusion of a new watch right here that I have not reviewed on the channel yet. So let's get started and break down each in more detail. The first category of watches we're going to talk about in greater detail are pilot watches. Now I'm just going to go over a high level of why one would choose a pilot watch, and the main characteristics that set a pilot watch apart from other types of watches is just the clear legibility of these dials. Now, during World War I into World War II and just before the pre-jet engine era, wristwatches were important to pilots, especially for the fact that you needed to be able to glance at your wrist, quickly look at the time, and then get back to focusing on the cockpit. Legibility was extremely important. Now, the Sinn 104 takes that into account with this classic three-hand dial with hour, minute, and seconds and a legible date. You have watches, for example, the IWC series from the Mark 18 all the way up to the Big Pilot that are just very clear, very easy to read, and very large on the wrist. There was a purpose behind this. Now, the other thing that makes these watches interesting is their anti-magnetics. A lot of pilots are flying in high altitudes where the magnetic field might screw up the mechanical or automatic movement of these pieces. This Sinn, for example, is known to have anti-magnetic shielding as well as IWC in most pilot watches, and that's a sign of quality. Now, what I recommend for people who are looking into pilot watches is just knowing the different types out there. The Sinn 104, it gets confused a lot with a dive watch, and I'm going to give you guys a little tip. One thing that really sets this apart is the bezel. This is a multi-directional bezel versus a unidirectional. So I can twist this bezel both ways, and it's also the countdown bezel. As you can see, it goes 55, 50, so if we want to set this timer here to 55 seconds, you can see that there's a countdown. Get back focus. There's a countdown that can go from here all the way to to your starting point to let you know a time of 55 minutes has elapsed. Dive watches don't work in that respect. So for any of you guys that are looking into these watches, I do recommend checking out brands such as Sinn, Laco, more on the affordable side. If you want to get into the higher level, there's the IWC, obviously, and I just want you to know that that's what really sets these key characteristics apart from a pilot watch is legibility. I mean, if you're a fan of dials that are very clear and easy to read, which I know a lot of people are, pilot watches might be a good starting point for your first everyday watch or your first high-level luxury watch. So I just wanted to go over this one in detail, and then the next one we're going to go over in more detail are going to be dive watches. With the popularity of deep sea diving growing more and more in the 50s and 60s, watch companies had to come up with a way for divers to actually monitor their oxygen supply underwater. Now that's the main goal of a dive watch. What I recommend to people who are interested in dive watches is to ask yourself, are you the type of person that has a very rugged and active lifestyle, yet you want to wear a nice luxury timepiece on your wrist without worrying about it getting damaged? The first thing I would recommend is obviously go to the Casio G-Shock series, although it's not an automatic movement, it's quartz powered. Those are made to take a beating. If you want to stay true and traditional and focus on the dive watch, automatic or mechanical, most likely automatic, I recommend taking a look at some of the entry-level brands such as the SKX 007, SKX 009. While those are ISO certified, they are also under $250, and I think best bang for the buck. But the watch I hold in my hands right now is the Squale 1521 50 Atmos. It is a beautiful, beautiful sunburst blue, and as you can see, I put a green NATO strap on it. And what I like about this watch is its ruggedness and durability. 50 Atmos is 500 meters water resistance. I could take this into the water and not worry and having to worry about damaging it, especially if the crown is screwed in. Most importantly, make sure the crown is screwed in to ensure water resistance. Now, what set dive watches apart from pilot watches with bezels, for example, like the Sinn, is the unidirection of the dial. And what's interesting is some people are asking me, well, why is that important? Again, this is to monitor your oxygen supply underwater. Now, let's keep in mind, these were used for actual applications. So you would set your lume pip to your orange marker on this watch, for instance, and then you knew that if you only had 30 minutes of air supply left, if you submerge now, you would have to begin to emerge from the water once this orange hand gets to the 30, and then you know in 30 minutes has elapsed. What's important to look for in dive watches is obviously water resistance rating. I mean, most of them should be at least 200 meters. I know that even the Rolex Submariner is rated for that, and that is probably the high-end, high-level original dive watch. And if you're looking for something rugged and durable that you can actually, really beat up and not worry about, Rolex is the king. I mean, there's no comparison. But again, you're paying a higher price for that. There's great other examples. I know I mentioned the Seiko SKX series. There's the Squales, which are also sub $1,000 price points. I just recommend that if you do have a lifestyle where you're on the run and you don't want to worry about damaging your timepiece and you're not so much in a dressy type of environment at work, dive watches are a good alternate for you. And I'm going to link the video to this Squale below if you want a little more history on Squale, the company. I think it's a great value and a great product for the price point. 500 meters. I'm not going to go down 500 meters, but I know that if I go out to the beach or if I wear this out, when it's raining, I don't have to worry about anything getting screwed up on this. And that's what's really important, just the ease and comfort of just strapping this on your wrist. And putting on the NATO strap adds to that. I know that this watch comes with a leather band, which is kind of counterintuitive for the dive watch tradition, but keeping it on NATO allows it to be even more water resistant without having to worry about not just damaging the watch, but the strap, for example. So I just wanted to throw it out there for those of you who are looking into dive watches, just a little more background of what they are, and hopefully this helps a little bit. And now the final watch that we have for review is a chronograph, and this is from my own personal collection. It is a Tissot PRC 200. I believe this is a discontinued model, and they make a new updated version which is slightly larger, and I'm pretty sure they also make an automatic version of this. Now, even though this is a quartz version, just to show you guys that these watches, they do hold a sentimental value. I've had this watch for almost 12 years now, and I really appreciate it. It's been with me through a lot of adventures, and it's really taken a beating. And at the time, it was a sub $200 price point. I wasn't really worried about it per se, but I just wanted to go over why someone would want a chronograph versus something such as a dive watch. And this allows for a little bit more of a accuracy in terms of timing. While as a dive watch has the timing bezel, a chronograph basically functions. You have your ticking second hand usually on the sub dial at 6 o'clock, and then you also have your hour and minute counters. So for example, say I want to start timing something, I push the start button. As you can see, my second timer starts going. Now, once it hits about a minute, it should start turning over here in the minute counter, and then you have your sub seconds here. So let's let this run for a little while, and we'll stop it. And as you can see, you have your sub seconds, and then you have your seconds counter. And as I said, as this keeps going through 1 minute functions, every minute that ticks, you can track how many minutes you have stored up to 30 minutes before it resets to 0 again. So I think these things are great. I use these for actual applications. Even for example, if I'm cooking something and I quickly want to time how long I'm cooking something without having to pull out my phone, just a quick simple action of pushing this button to allow this thing to tick away. So if you're somebody who likes to time things or likes to travel and I'm going to go over what the tachymeter is and just kind of do measurements of time, I think this is a great tool. Just any chronograph, and even though this is entry level piece, as you get into the automatic movements of chronographs, the price point goes up a lot higher. Pilot watches are known to have chronograph functions too, such as the IWC Pilot series. What I really think that these tools are very important. I mean, you have watches such as the Omega Speedmaster, which was the moon watch. That was an actual real world application that pilots are using or astronauts are using in space. I find that very interesting. So, just a little background on chronographs, and I know I quickly wanted to talk to you about tachymeters. The way the tachymeter works is it's pretty unique actually, and pretty interesting more likely. You can see these numbers out here, 400, 300, and as it counts down, the intervals get smaller and smaller. Let's say I need to time something. For example, my friend is packing a box, and he has many boxes to pack. I tell him to start packing, and I push the start button. As time is moving forward, and as he's packing, I wait until he's completed the first box. So I'm going to let this run for another couple of seconds. And let's say he finishes the first box right about now. So you can see here it stops at 240. Now, what that basically means is that if he continues packing at a continuous rate, he can pack 240 boxes in 1 hour. at that constant rate, barring any human error or any breaks. But I know that might not be something a lot of people use, but I just want to explain what that is. And I know they make watches such as the Young Hands, where there's a tachyometer on it. I think it's interesting to know how these watches function, not just look at it as a pretty dial, but understand the logic behind it and just get a feel of how these watches were actually tools. And I know we're going to do dress watches on this channel, but I also wanted to talk about actual application of tool watches. So there you guys go. That's just been a quick overview of the 3 different types of watches out there that one can purchase as an everyday wearer. I hope this video has been helpful, and please let me know down below if these are videos that you'd like to see in addition to watch reviews, and we can make sure we keep them coming on Time and Tell. And as always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm going to include the links for the reviews of the Sinn 104 and the Squale 1521 down below. Feel free to share this video, and also please feel free to hit the subscribe button down below. Thanks guys, take care.